And I am on today. Some of you saw I posted my new hair. Woohoo. I have dark brown hair by nature, but I love this. And just shout out to one of my favorite people on the planet, Isaiah Landis, who made my hair possible today. And I actually trust him with my hair. I am talking about heart healing for leadership, and this is all about humility. And humility is an interesting word because when we say we have humility, it may be that there's some digging to it to help our heart. Humility is actually done in many ways. When we're in leadership or as leaders, we may learn humility because of pride. There could be a fall in our character. If our character is not there, we can actually have humility happen to us because we had been prideful. Maybe it's prideful in thinking we know everything, arrogance, pride in decision making, maybe not hearing other people, moving forward with things without hearing from other people, not hearing other people speak advice or give advice to you. Not that every advice is the same. Sometimes we get advice that is opposite of what we're called to do, but really that arrogance and pride can lead to humility, where all of a sudden we're doing something and it could impact the team, it could impact other people. Humility is digging deep and knowing that we have nothing. Yeah, we might have some different talents, but it's not ours. The stuff that we have is to help other people. And we learn humility when over life, it can also be shame. Sometimes when we've had shame, deep shame, that can lead to false humility. There's actually in leadership ways that we can have false humility. False humility is when we actually are doing something and or we have a gift or talent and we're thankful for it, right? Like to help other people, but we actually act like, oh, it's really not that anything. And what that can do is it can actually hide. It's almost like you've ever heard that wisdom about hiding your talents or hiding your light under a bushel. It's the same thing. It's basically hiding things that you're called to bring out to help many people, that you have that by design. And then right, when it's not false humility, if it's like the pride, you can act as if you have humility, right? But the heart in it is, oh, well, I do X, Y, Z, but you actually know that you have more giftings versus not thinking you have it. And true humility is when you're walking and operating and always constantly reflecting and saying, how can I continue to check my heart? How can I continue to make sure that I'm honoring my other people, honoring myself, keeping my values there, and owning it. A lot of humility is an owning things that we do well, things that we're not doing well, reflecting. And as we become more secure in ourselves, I talked about leadership and security. The more secure we are, the more we can have and look at our hearts and reflect on, where am I at as a leader? Where am I at in my walk? And that's the difference. I remember, for example, for false humility, in my different giftings and talents, I was hiding that. I had the title of doctor. It took some time to do. It took 7 years. That was a long journey, 7 years. Sometimes you get certificates as a year, but it was a long 7 years. And it cost me a lot. It was intensive and I had to overcome things. But in that, I was hiding that. I was struggling. And I remember really clearly when I realized I was hiding my gifts and talents, I was not operating in true humility. It was false humility, where I was just degrading myself and putting things down differently, rather than owning and being proud of that in a healthy way, right? Not an unhealthy pride. There's unhealthy pride when our heart is so hardened. A lot of pride that's exactly it. The word pride could be something good, but usually it's to deal with our hardened heart in areas of leadership or in our life that needs to be softened and shifted. And so when it came to this humility, I was learning that I was hiding things that needed to help many people. And I really shifted. I really was a surprise. I didn't realize I was doing that. The second part about this is that the false humility, where you're really over exaggerating your giftings or acting as if you don't know. And then people give you some feedback and you're like, oh, yes, okay. No, that's also not humility. And a lot of times when we say, oh, I'm so humble, well, that is right. As soon as you say that, right, it's almost like if you ever had, we're like, oh, I would have more patience. Well, if you ask for more patience, all of a sudden things happens, right? So I learned a long time ago how to word things, but we all, that's the same thing, right? If we're like, oh, I'm humble, well, there's always opportunity to get more humble. There's always more opportunities to learn humility in a different way and to move forward, right? It's all about that internal, knowing your internal value, knowing what you do have that's a strength, knowing areas of growth is humility, and knowing that you, that these gifts are to serve others, and also gifts for yourself, to know your strengths and know areas of change. And so when I started to undo that, then I was starting to operate in who I am, like moving out in that instead of always acting as if I didn't have that. And humility as a leader is incredibly important, because humility is about accountability, it's about transparency, it's about integrity, it's about talking about where you're at and where you're going, and even things that you've made as decisions. It's also talking about, it's also part of empowerment of leaders and other people. That true empowerment comes from a place of humility in our heart, where we know that our heart posture is constantly wanting to seek and grow and learn. And our heart posture is that we know we're constantly moving into something new. We're becoming ongoingly changed, and that our hearts aren't, like with humility, it's also taking on things. I was reading something where a lot of times leaders will just take on and own things, right? They're just taking on that instead of picking people over, right? Or just causing some shame for their staff. They're actually identifying and owning some things. That's what leadership is. We take ownership for things. Maybe perhaps it was somebody else that like had made some decisions that impacted, but overall that we're taking accountability for that. And we're saying, let's see how we can shift this, right? And so that humility piece is important. But if we don't know who we are, if we don't know our identity and truly know who we are, then we can actually operate in false humility, or we can operate in like over amplified or overcompensate as if we have humility, but it's really pride, and really down below the root is, below of pride is shame and not knowing who we are, insecurities. Those are all the root. First you have the shame, then you have the pride. So then the pride has the hardened heart. But before that was shame, where we hid, and then it turns to pride. So it's an ongoing journey as leaders. We don't arrive out of that. I'm always asking every day for more ways to have a soft heart, to learn humility, to have my blind spots shifted. And it's important to do that. And I think as a leader, we continue to do that. We go from ongoing glory to glory and changing. And leadership it's a gift to people. And it's important to keep shifting and allowing ourselves to heal and to grow and to have people speak into our lives. If we don't allow anybody to speak into our lives, it's good to use wisdom. Sometimes people might try to, wherever people are in their hearts, and having healthy conversations. So humility is a good one. It's not an easy one, because we're constantly being challenged. I love to be challenged to have more humility, because I want to continue to know that I can't do anything on my own. In fact, I need other people, community, and I need each other to continue to move forward. So I wanted to come on here today. I have some different posts talking about the brain. I love to work with leaders. I love to talk about the brain and the amygdala and other places in our body, and just how it impacts us. And even as a leader, things that we don't actually move through and process can impact our decisions, can impact how we lead. And so it's so important to have a heart healthy attitude, and even looking at how we heal our heart day to day as we continue to move forward in these human bodies. But we also have so much to offer when we are most healed. Have a great day, everybody. I'll be on again soon with another part of Healing Hearts Leadership series.